The wrench slipped from Owen's hand and clattered against the metal floor. He cursed under his breath and wiped the grease from his palms. The old mining equipment never seemed to stay fixed for long, but that was life on Redstone Valley. Everything here was second-hand, third-hand, or held together with hope and wired. A crash echoed through the workshop. Owen turned to find a small dragon hatchling tumbling through his doorway, wings flapping uselessly as the little creature struggled to stay upright. The dragon was no bigger than a large dog, scales gleaming bronze in the afternoon light. Owen recognized those scales immediately. "Pip!" Owen set down his tools and moved toward the hatchling. "What are you doing here? Where's your mother?" The little dragon's eyes were wide with panic. Tears streamed down the scaled face as Pip rushed forward and grabbed Owen's sleeve with tiny claws that barely pricked through the fabric. Please, you have to come," Pip gasped in broken galactic common. "Mommy's sick. She needs you. She keeps saying your name." Owen's stomach dropped. He knelt down to the hatchling's level and put his hands on the small, shaking shoulders. "Slow down, Pip. Tell me what happened." "She fall down this morning," Pip sobbed. "She not wake up. Healers come and look, but they say nothing can help. They say she dying." The little dragon's voice broke on the last word. "But Mommy keep whispering for Owen. For you. Please, you save her before. You save her from rocks. You can save her now." Owen felt his chest tighten. 3 years ago, he had pulled Sarah from a collapsed mine shaft. Everyone else had given up after the first hour, saying it was impossible to reach her. But Owen had spent 14 hours digging through rock and debris with his bare hands when the equipment failed. He could still remember the moment he finally saw her trapped wing, still recall the relief in her eyes when she realized someone had actually come for her. After that day, Sarah had visited him regularly. She brought Pip along, letting the curious hatchling learn human words and hear stories about Earth. Owen had shared tales of forests and oceans, of cities that touched the sky. Pip would sit for hours listening with wonder in those bright young eyes. Dragons were proud creatures. They rarely asked anyone for help, let alone humans. The fact that Pip was here, begging like this, meant things were truly desperate. "Where is she?" Owen asked. "Nesting grounds. In the deep caves." Pip tugged at his sleeve harder. "Please hurry. I scared she not wake up again." Owen stood and moved quickly to the back of his workshop. He pulled down an old military medical kit from the shelf, the one he swore he would never need again after retiring. The box was dusty, but the supplies inside were still good. He had made sure of that, checking them every few months out of habit. "Let's go," he said. Pip's whole body sagged with relief. The little dragon turned and scampered toward the door, then looked back to make sure Owen was following. They left the workshop behind and headed into the wilderness beyond the colony settlement. The terrain grew rougher as they traveled. Redstone Valley earned its name from the deep red rocks that jutted from the ground like broken teeth. Pip navigated between them with practiced ease, but the hatchling was small and grew tired quickly. "I'm sorry," Pip panted after an hour of travel. "I'm not big enough to carry you like grown dragons. You have to walk." "Don't apologize," Owen said. He reached down and scooped the exhausted hatchling into his arms. "I've walked farther than this. Save your energy." Pip curled against his chest, small claws gripping his shirt. "You really think you can help Mommy?" Owen wanted to promise everything would be fine. He wanted to tell this frightened child that Sarah would be perfectly healthy. But he had learned long ago not to make promises he might not be able to keep. "I'll do everything I can," he said instead. "Your mother is strong. She survived being buried alive. She can survive this too. She told me about that day," Pip said quietly. "She said all the other people left. But you stayed. You digged and digged until you found her." The little dragon looked up at him. "She said humans never leave people behind. That what makes you different from everyone else in Galaxy." Owen's throat felt tight. He remembered his old squad, remembered the oath they all took. Leave no one behind. Most of his unit had died keeping that promise. He was one of the few who made it out of the war alive, and some days he still wondered why he deserved to survive when better people had not. They climbed higher into the hills. Other dragons appeared in the sky, circling overhead. They watched Owen with suspicious eyes, but did not interfere. A human walking into dragon territory was unusual, but Pip's obvious distress seemed to grant him safe passage. The entrance to the nesting caves appeared ahead, a massive opening in the mountainside. More dragons gathered near it, their large forms casting long shadows. An enormous male dragon with silver scales stepped forward, blocking the path. "You brought a human here?" the dragon said in a deep rumbling voice. "Elder Roth," Pip said quickly. "This is Owen. He saved Mommy before. She asking for him." Roth studied Owen with ancient eyes. "We have healers. What can a human possibly do that we cannot?" Owen met the dragon's gaze steadily. "Maybe nothing. But Sarah asked for me, and I'm here. Will you let me see her or not?" For a long moment, Roth said nothing. Then the great dragon stepped aside. "She is in the deepest chamber. But know this, human. Our healers have declared there is no hope. Sarah suffers from crimson fade. It has killed our kind for thousands of years. There is no cure." Owen walked past him into the darkness of the caves. Pip scrambled down and led the way through winding tunnels lit by glowing fungi. The air grew warmer as they descended. Finally, they emerged into a vast chamber. Sarah lay in the center, her massive form barely moving. Her bronze scales had lost their shine, turned dull and gray. Her breathing was shallow and labored. Other dragons stood around her in a circle, their heads bowed. Owen approached slowly and knelt beside her great head. "Sarah," he said softly, "I'm here." One golden eye cracked open. When she saw him, something like relief crossed her face. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then her eye closed again and she went still. Pip pressed against Owen's leg, trembling. "You can fix her, right? Please say you can fix her." Owen opened his medical kit with shaking hands. He did not know if he could save her, but he had to try. Owen pulled the medical scanner from his kit and ran it over Sarah's massive body. The device was old, designed for human physiology, but it could detect basic vital signs in most species. Numbers scrolled across the small screen, and none of them looked good. Elder Roth moved closer, his silver scales gleaming in the dim light. "As I said, human, crimson fade has no cure. We have watched our people die from this sickness since before your species even left your world. What are the symptoms?" Owen asked, not looking up from his scanner. "The scales lose color first," Roth explained. "Then weakness spreads through the body. The blood itself begins to fail. Death comes slowly over many days. Sarah collapsed this morning, but she has likely been sick for much longer." She hit it well. Owen's scanner beeped. He frowned at the readings and ran the device over Sarah's chest again. The pathogen's signature looked familiar, tickling at the edges of his memory. He had seen something like this before, but where? Pip sat beside Sarah's head, small claws stroking the dull scales. "Mommy always strong," the little dragon whispered. "She never gets sick. She take care of me always. I don't understand why this happening. Sometimes sickness does not care how strong someone is," Owen said gently. He studied the scanner readings again, his mind racing through years of medical training and field experience. Then it hit him. Ashfall, the colony world where his unit had been stationed during the war. The locals there had contracted a disease with similar symptoms. Weakness, organ failure, blood degradation. The colonists called it Red Death because of how it turned their veins dark. Owen had helped treat dozens of cases before the medics developed a working cure. He checked the pathogen signature again, comparing it mentally to what he remembered. The structure was not identical, but it was close. Very close. Too close to be coincidence that a cold feeling settled in his gut. "This is not a dragon disease," he said quietly to Roth's head swung toward him. "What are you saying?" Owen closed his eyes briefly. "Crimson fade. How long has your species suffered from it?" "Thousands of years, as I said." "No." Owen shook his head. "When did it actually start? Not legends or old stories. When is the first verified case you have records of?" Roth was silent for a long moment. "Perhaps 200 years ago." "Why does this matter?" 200 years. That was around when humans first made contact with this region of space. Owen felt sick. "Because this is not your disease," Owen said. "Humans brought this here. Not on purpose, but we brought it. This is a human pathogen that somehow jumped species." The chamber went deathly quiet. Every dragon, turned to stare at Owen. He could feel their anger building like pressure before a storm. You did this. Roth's voice was dangerously low. Your kind killed our people. Not intentionally, Owen said, meeting the elder's furious gaze. But yes, humans were the source, and that means I know how to cure it. Pip looked up with sudden hope. You can save her. Maybe, Owen said carefully. During the war, I was stationed on Ashfall. The colonists there got sick with something almost identical to this. We developed a treatment. It worked on humans. I don't know if it will work on dragons, but it's the best chance she has. Where is this medicine? Roth demanded that Owen's hope began to crumble. In a government storage facility, about 300 kilometers from here. Then send for it immediately. It's not that simple, Owen said. The facility was abandoned 5 years ago. It sits in the middle of a radiation zone now. The colony's only transport ship is broken down for repairs. There's no way to get there except on foot. 300 kilometers through radiation, Roth said. That is suicide. For most species, yes, Owen admitted. But humans are more resistant to radiation than most others. I could survive it. Barely. How long would this journey take? Owen did the math in his head. 40 hours minimum. If I don't stop to rest, and if nothing goes wrong. Serais bredinist. They all turned to look at her. Her eyes remained closed, but her body trembled with each labored breath. How long does she have? Owen asked that Roth's anger faded into grief. Perhaps 2 days. Maybe less. 40 hours there and back. 80 hours total. Sarah would be dead long before he returned, unless he made the journey in half that time. Owen stood up and checked his medical kit. He had stimulants, enough to keep him awake and moving for days if necessary. He had radiation meds that would help protect his body, at least partially. He had survived worse during the war. He could do this. I'm going, he said. You will die, Roth stated flatly. Maybe, Owen said. But if I don't go, Sarah definitely dies. Those are not acceptable odds to me. Pip jumped up, wings fluttering. I come with you. I help. No, Owen said firmly. He knelt down and put his hands on Pip's shoulders. The radiation would kill you in hours. You need to stay here with your mother. But you die too. Pip cried. You said you barely survive. That mean you might not survive. I might not. Owen agreed. But I'm going anyway. Why? Pip's voice broke. Why you risk your life for us? We just dragons. You just meet Mommy 3 years ago. Owen was quiet for a moment. How could he explain it to a child? How could he put into words the oath he had taken, the promise that had cost him everything he loved, but had also given him purpose? Because your mother did not leave me behind either, he finally said. After I pulled her from those rocks, I was in bad shape. Broken ribs, internal bleeding. I thought I would die in that mine. But Sarah stayed with me. She kept me warm with her body heat. She breathed carefully to give me air when the dust got too thick. She talked to me for hours to keep me conscious until help arrived. He had never told anyone that part of the story. Most people only knew he saved Sarah. They did not know she had saved him right back. She could have left once she was free, Owen continued. She could have flown away and sent help later. But she stayed. So now I stay. That's what you do for family. Pip stared at him with wide eyes. We family. Yeah, Owen said softly. I think we are. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an old service medal. It was tarnished and bent, but it was the only thing he had kept from his military days. He pressed it into Pip's small claws. Hold on to this for me, he said. I'll come back for it. I promise. Pip clutched the medal with both front claws. You promise? I promise. Owen stood and turned to Roth. Take care of them both while I'm gone. If Sarah wakes up, tell her I'm coming back with the cure. Roth studied him for a long moment. I have misjudged your species, Owen Harper. Go with our blessing. We will guard them with our lives. Owen nodded once, then turned and walked out of the chamber. He did not look back. If he looked back and saw Pip's frightened face or Sarah's dying form, he might lose his resolve. The sun was setting as he emerged from the caves. He adjusted his pack and started walking toward the radiation zone, 40 hours to save a life. He had survived worse odds before. 20 hours into the journey, Owen's body was already starting to fail. He stumbled over loose rock and caught himself against a boulder. His hands left bloody prints on the stone. The radiation suit he wore was old military surplus, designed for short-term exposure, not an extended march through contaminated wasteland. The protective layers were breaking down faster than he had hoped. The landscape around him looked like something from a nightmare. Red dust covered everything, and the few plants that grew here were twisted and wrong. This area had been beautiful once, before the reactor meltdown. Now it was a dead zone that stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. Owen checked his dosimeter. The radiation levels were climbing. He was getting closer to the facility, which meant things would only get worse from here. He forced himself to keep walking. His mind drifted back to the war, back to ashfall and the plague that had swept through the colony. He remembered a little girl, maybe 8 years old, who had survived the disease only because he had stayed up for 3 nights straight monitoring her treatment. She had held his hand and called him a hero, but he had not felt like a hero. He had felt like someone desperately trying not to fail again. The girl's mother had died 2 days before they found the cure. Owen still remembered her name. He remembered all their names, everyone he could not save. They haunted his dreams even now, years after the war ended. But he also remembered the ones who lived. The colony had survived. Families stayed together. Children grew up who otherwise would have died. That had to count for something. That Owen's legs gave out, and he fell to his knees. He gasped for air, his lungs burning. The radiation was attacking his cells, breaking down his body from the inside. He fumbled for his medical kit and pulled out a stimulant injector. The warning label said not to use more than 1 dose per week. He had already used 3 in the past 20 hours. He jabbed the 4th dose into his thigh. Energy flooded through his system, artificial and chemical, but effective. His heart rate spiked and his vision cleared. He climbed back to his feet and kept moving 0.1 foot in front of the other. That was all he had to focus on. 1 step, then another, then another. Back in the dragon caves, Pip refused to leave Sarah's side. The little dragon had not eaten or slept since Owen left. Elder Roth tried to coax the hatchling away, but Pip just clutched Owen's metal tighter and shook his head. "Mommy needs me," Pip said, "and Owen needs someone to believe he's coming back." Sarah's condition had worsened through the night. Her breathing was so shallow now that sometimes it seemed to stop altogether. The healers checked on her regularly, but there was nothing they could do except wait. In her few conscious moments, Sarah whispered Owen's name. He went to get medicine, Pip told her during one of these moments. He said he'd coming back. He promised. Sarah's eye opened slightly. She looked at her child, and something like peace crossed her face. Then she slipped back into unconsciousness. The other young dragons came to sit with Pip. They did not understand why their friend cared so much about a human, but they stayed anyway. That was what friends did. Owen reached the facility at the 30-hour mark. He had made better time than expected, but it had cost him. Blood ran from his nose, and his hands shook so badly he could barely grip his scanner. His skin felt like it was on fire. The building loomed ahead, half collapsed and overgrown with mutated plants. The main entrance was blocked by rubble, but Owen found a side door hanging open. He squeezed through and entered the darkness beyond. His flashlight flickered. The batteries were dying. Of course they were. Nothing was going right except the fact that he was still alive and moving. He navigated through the corridors by memory. He had been stationed here briefly during the war, long before the meltdown. The layout was burned into his brain from dozens of supply runs, left at the intersection, down 2 flights of stairs, past the armory, through the medical wing. The storage room door was sealed. Owen pulled out a plasma cutter and went to work on the lock. His hand was shaking so badly that it took 3 tries to get the angle right. The lock finally gave way with a shower of sparks. The door swung open. Owen stepped inside and swept his flashlight across rows of storage containers. Each one was labeled with medical codes and dates. He moved quickly down the aisles, searching for the right designation. There, Container M847, Ashfall Plague Treatment, Batch 7. He pulled the container down and opened it. Inside were dozens of vials, each one holding the medicine that had saved so many lives on Ashfall. But the preservation unit was failing. The indicator light blinked red. Owen's heart sank. He checked the vials one by one. Most of them had degraded. The liquid inside turned brown and useless. He kept searching, hoping against hope that at least some had survived. 0.3 vials. Out of 72 original doses, only 3 were still viable. Owen carefully packed them into a protective case and secured it in his pack. 3 doses would have to be enough. He had no way of knowing what dosage Sarah would need. Dragons were much larger than humans. 1 vial might not be sufficient, but 3 was all he had. He turned to leave, and his vision blurred. The room spun around him, and he grabbed a shelf for support. His body was shutting down. The radiation poisoning was too severe. The stimulants were keeping him conscious, but they could not repair the damage being done to his cells. Owen pulled out another injector. This one was different from the stimulants. It was a last resort combat drug, designed to keep soldiers functioning long enough to complete their mission, even with fatal injuries. The military had banned its use after the war because of the severe side effects. The label warned that it could cause permanent damage to the heart and nervous system. Owen jabbed it into his neck. The effect was immediate and brutal. His entire body went rigid as the drug flooded his system. Pain exploded through every nerve, so intense that he could not even scream. Then, just as suddenly, the pain vanished. His vision sharpened to unnatural clarity. His heartbeat slowed to a steady rhythm. He felt nothing. No pain, no exhaustion, no fear. Just cold efficiency. Owen walked out of the facility and began the journey back. His body moved like a machine now, the drug overriding every signal that should have made him stop. He did not feel his feet bleeding in his boots. He did not notice when he fell and got back up. He just walked. Somewhere in the back of his mind, the part of him that was still human knew he was dying. The radiation damage was too severe, and the combat drug was destroying what little healthy tissue remained. He would not survive this journey, but he would complete it. That was all that mattered. Pip woke suddenly in the darkness of the cave. Something had changed. The little dragon looked at Sarah and gasped. Her mother had stopped breathing. "No, no, no," Pip cried, scrambling to Sarah's side. "Mommy, please wake up. Please. Owen's coming back. He's bringing medicine. You have to wait for him." Healers rushed over. They examined Sarah and exchanged grim looks. "I am sorry, little one of them said gently. "She is gone." "No," Pip shouted. "She not gone. She just sleeping. Owen will fix her when he gets back." He promised. Elder Roth entered the chamber. He had been keeping watch at the cave entrance. His face was grave. "There is something you should see," he said. The dragons moved outside. Dawn was breaking over the hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. A figure was walking toward them across the wasteland. Even from a distance, they could see the person was in bad shape. The walk was unsteady, mechanical. But they kept coming, step after painful step. Pip's eyes went wide. Owen, the little dragon, launched into the air, wings beating frantically. Other dragons followed, flying out to meet the approaching human. They found him collapsed 2 kilometers from the caves, face down in the dirt. His hands were still clutching a small case against his chest. The adult dragons lifted Owen's broken body carefully and flew him back to the caves. Pip circled around them, crying out Owen's name over and over. The human did not respond. His eyes were closed and blood covered his face. They laid him on the cave floor near Sarah's still form. The healers rushed to examine him, but even they fell back in shock when they saw the extent of his injuries. "This should not be possible," one healer whispered. "No one survives this level of radiation poisoning. How is he still alive?" "Barely alive," another corrected. "Look at his cellular degradation. His organs are failing. He will be dead within the hour." Pip threw himself at Owen's chest, pressing an ear against the human's ribs. The heartbeat was there, faint and irregular, but there. The little dragon looked at the case, still clutched in Owen's hands, and carefully pried it free. Inside were 3 vials filled with clear liquid. "The medicine," Pip breathed. "He got it. He really got it." Elder Roth landed beside them. His expression was grim as he looked between Owen and Sarah, both dying. The medicine came too late. "No," Pip said fiercely. "Not too late. We give medicine to Mommy now." Owen said it would work. "Pip," Roth said gently, "your mother's heart has stopped." She is beyond saving now. Then we fix her heart. Pip insisted. Dragons can do that. I seen you do it before when Uncle Krell got hurt. You shocked his heart and it started again. Roth hesitated. It was true that dragon fire could restart a heart if applied quickly enough. But Sarah had been gone for several minutes already. The chances of success were almost zero. Please, Pip begged. Owen gave everything to bring medicine. We have to try. The old dragon looked at the unconscious human, at the evidence of his sacrifice written in burns and blood across every inch of exposed skin. This human had walked through death itself to keep a promise to a child. Very well, Roth said. We will try. He called the other adult dragons over and explained what needed to be done. They positioned themselves around Sarah's body. Roth placed his claws carefully on her chest, over where her heart lay silent. Stand back, little one, he told Pip. A controlled burst of dragon fire shot from Roth's mouth, focused into a thin stream that struck Sarah's chest. Her body jerked. Nothing happened. He tried again, adjusting the intensity. Still nothing done on the third attempt. Sarah's body convulsed, and she gasped. Her heart stuttered, missed a beat, then started again with a weak rhythm. The dragons erupted in shocked murmurs. Pip rushed forward. Mommy, wake up. But Sarah did not wake. Her breathing was shallow and her heartbeat fragile. She was alive, but barely. And without the medicine, she would die again soon. Roth picked up one of the vials and studied it. I do not know how to use this. The dosage, the method of delivery. Human medicine works differently from ours. Owen knows, Pip said desperately. The little dragon ran to the human's side and shook his shoulder. Owen, please wake up. Please. We need you. Mommy needs you. Owen's eyes flickered open. They were unfocused and glazed with pain. He tried to speak, but only a rasp came out. The medicine, he finally managed to whisper. Sera, she alive? Pip said quickly. But we don't know how to give her medicine. You have to tell us. Owen tried to sit up and failed. Every movement sent waves of agony through his body, though the combat drug dulled it to a distant ache. He could feel his organs shutting down one by one. He had minutes left, maybe less. Help me up, he gasped. Two dragons carefully lifted him into a sitting position. Owen's head swam and his vision darkened at the edges. He forced himself to focus on the vials Roth held. Intravenous injection. Owen said, each word an effort. Directly into bloodstream. Need a fine vein. Large one. His hands shook violently as he tried to take the vial. Roth pulled it back. You cannot even hold it steady, the elder dragon said. Tell me what to do. I will administer it. Owen had never taught a dragon to give an injection before. He had never taught anyone who did not have hands. But he talked Roth through it step by step. How to prepare the vial. How to find the vein in Sarah's foreleg where the scales were thinnest. How to insert the needle at the correct angle. Roth's claws were huge compared to the delicate medical equipment, but he moved with surprising precision. He followed Owen's instructions exactly, his expression intense with concentration. The needle slid into Sarah's vein. Roth slowly pressed the plunger, releasing the medicine into her bloodstream. All 3 vials, Owen said. She is bigger than humans. Needs full dose. They repeated the process with the second and third vials. When the last one was empty, they could only wait. Owen slumped against the cave wall. He had done all he could. The rest was up to Sarah's body and the medicine. He felt himself fading, the combat drug finally losing its hold as his body gave up the fight. Pip curled up against his side. You did it, Owen. You brought medicine. You saved her. Maybe, Owen whispered. Not sure yet. You did. Pip insisted. You kept promise. You came back. The little dragon held up the tarnished service medal. I keep this safe for you. Like you asked. Owen managed a weak smile. He tried to take the medal, but his hand would not cooperate. Pip pressed it into his palm and closed his fingers around it. Thank you, Owen said. His eyes drifted closed. Pip shook him frantically. No, you have to stay awake. You have to see Mommy get better. But Owen could not stay awake. He was so tired. The exhaustion went deeper than bone, deeper than blood. It was the kind of tired that came from using up every last bit of strength a body possessed the healers examined him again. One of them looked at Pip with sorrow in her eyes. The human is dying, little one. The radiation has destroyed too much. There is nothing we can do for injuries this severe. There has to be something. Pip cried. He saved Mommy. Someone has to save him. Roth knelt down beside the small dragon. Sometimes, Pip, being brave means accepting what we cannot change. Owen knew the risks. He went anyway because he thought saving Sarah was worth his life. But it's not fair, Pip sobbed. He's too good to die. He's the best person I ever know. The dragons stood in respectful silence around the fallen human. Even those who had doubted him, who had questioned why a human would risk everything for a dragon, now understood. They had witnessed something they had not thought possible from any species, pure selfless courage. Hours passed. Owen's breathing became more shallow. His heartbeat grew weaker. The dragons kept vigil, honoring his sacrifice the only way they could. Then, as the sun began to set outside the cave, something changed. Sarah's breathing deepened. The gray color began to fade from her scales, replaced by the warm bronze they remembered. Her body, which had been cold and still, grew warm again. One of the healers checked her vital signs and gasped. Her blood is regenerating. The medicine is working. She is recovering. Pip looked up with sudden hope. Mommy is going to live. Yes, the healer said with wonder. She's going to live. Pip looked at Owen's unconscious form, then back at Sarah. But Owen is dying. Sarah's eye opened. It was still weak, still clouded with sickness, but awareness was returning. She saw Pip first. Then her gaze traveled to Owen lying nearby. She saw his condition and understanding flooded her features. What happened? She asked in a hoarse voice. Pip told her everything. The journey through the radiation zone. The medicine. The sacrifice. Sarah struggled to rise despite her weakness. No, I will not let him die. Not after what he has done. There is nothing to be done, Roth said sadly. The radiation poisoning is too severe. No medicine can repair that damage. There is one way, Sarah said. An old way. Dangerous and painful. But it is his only chance. What way? Pip asked desperately. Sarah looked at Owen with determination in her eyes. Dragon fire can burn away damaged flesh and force the body to regenerate. We use it in the old healing rituals. But it must be done carefully, with perfect control. And it will hurt him more than anything he has ever felt. But it will save him. Pip asked. Maybe, Sarah said, if his body is strong enough to survive the treatment. If I can control my fire precisely enough while still weak. If we are very, very lucky. She looked around at the gathered dragons. But he saved my life. I must try to save his. Sarah struggled to her feet, still weak but determined. The other dragons rushed to support her, but she waved them off. She needed to do this herself. Lay him flat, she instructed. I need access to his entire body. They positioned Owen on the smooth cave floor. His breathing was so shallow now that his chest barely moved. Sarah studied him with a healer's eye, identifying the areas of worst damage. The radiation had attacked every cell, but some organs were more compromised than others. This will be agony for him, she said quietly. Dragon fire burning away flesh is not meant for human bodies, but it is the only way to force his cells to regenerate clean. The damaged tissue must be destroyed so healthy tissue can grow. Will he survive? Pip asked in a small voice. I do not know, Sarah admitted, but I know he will die if I do nothing. So I must try. Elder Roth stepped forward. You are still weak yourself, Sarah. Your fire control may not be precise enough. One mistake could kill him. Then I will not make a mistake, Sarah said firmly. She lowered her great head near Owen's chest and took a deep breath. The other dragons moved back, giving her room to work. Pip stayed close, clutching Owen's service medal like a lifeline. Sarah released a thin stream of fire, so controlled that it was barely more than a thread of flame. It touched Owen's chest, and his body jerked. His eyes snapped open, and a scream tore from his throat. The sound was horrible, raw, and broken. It was the sound of agony beyond words. Hold him still, Sarah commanded, tears streaming down her face even as she continued the treatment. He must not move, or I could burn something vital. Several dragons pinned Owen's arms and legs gently but firmly. He thrashed against them, every instinct screaming to escape the pain. But they held him as Sarah's fire slowly, carefully burned away the radiation-poisoned tissue. She worked inch by inch across his body. Every patch of damaged skin was treated with precise fire. The smell of burning flesh filled the cave. Owen's screams eventually faded to hoarse gasps as his voice gave out, but his eyes remained wide with suffering. Pip sobbed openly, watching Owen endure this torture to live. "I'm sorry, Owen. I'm so sorry. Please forgive us." He would tell you there's nothing to forgive, Roth said gently, one claw resting on the small dragon's back. Look at his eyes. Even through the pain, there is no blame there. It was true. When Owen's gaze found Pip between waves of agony, there was only determination. He had survived the radiation zone. He would survive this too. He had to. The treatment lasted for hours. Sarah worked with painstaking care, her own body shaking with exhaustion. The medicine had saved her life, but she was far from fully recovered. Using her fire with such precision drained what little strength she had regained. Finally, as dawn broke outside the cave, Sarah pulled back. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed beside Owen, completely spent. "It is done," she gasped. "All I can do. Now his body must heal on its own." Owen lay motionless, his chest rising and falling in ragged breaths. His skin was raw and red where the fire had burned away the damaged layers, but underneath, new healthy tissue was already beginning to form. The dragon fire had forced his cells into rapid regeneration. The healers examined him carefully. "His vital signs are stabilizing," one reported with cautious hope. "The radiation damage is gone. If infection does not set in, if his body can handle the trauma, he may actually survive." "May," Pip repeated, looking between Owen and Sarah, both unconscious now. "That not a promise." "No," Roth agreed. "But it is hope. That is more than we had before." Days blurred together. Owen and Sarah lay side by side, both fighting to recover. The dragon community kept constant vigil over them, bringing water and medicine, monitoring their conditions. Pip refused to leave their sides. The little dragon slept curled between them, one wing touching Owen's arm and one touching Sarah's leg. Other young dragons brought food that Pip barely touched. On the third day, Owen's eyes opened. He stared at the cave's ceiling, confused and disoriented. Everything hurt, but it was a different kind of pain than before. This was the pain of healing, not dying. "Owen," Pip's voice was hoarse from crying. The little dragon scrambled closer. "You awake? You really awake?" Owen's mouth was too dry to speak. Someone brought water and helped him drink. He coughed, winced at the pain in his raw throat, then tried again. "Sarah," he managed to croak. "She alive?" Pip said quickly. "The medicine worked. She been awake couple times. She tired from healing you, but she getting better." Owen's eyes closed in relief. She was alive. It had worked. All of it had been worth it. "You were very stupid," Pip said, but there was no anger in the words, only fierce affection. "You almost died. You did die, kind of. Your heart stopped twice while Mommy was healing you." "Sorry," Owen whispered. "Don't be sorry," Pip said. "Be better. You have to stay alive now. No more almost dying." "I'll try." Over the next week, both Owen and Sarah slowly recovered. They spent most of their time sleeping, their bodies working overtime to heal. When they were both conscious at the same time, they did not speak much. There was an understanding between them that went beyond words. She had saved him. He had saved her. They were even now, though neither of them thought of it in those terms. That was not what this was about. On the 8th day, Owen was finally strong enough to sit up on his own. Sarah was recovering faster, her dragon physiology more resilient than human biology. She could walk now. Though she tired easily, she settled beside him, her great bulk warm and comforting. "We need to talk," she said quietly. Owen nodded. He had been expecting this conversation. "I have been sick for over a year," Sarah began. "I hid it well. Only in the last month did it become impossible to conceal. I knew I was dying. I knew there was no cure. Why didn't you tell me? Owen asked. I could have looked for treatment sooner. Because I did not know it was a human disease, Sarah said. I thought it was my fate, something all dragons must face. I was preparing for death. She looked at Pip, who was napping nearby, exhausted from days of worry. I brought Pip to visit you so often because I was trying to prepare my child for a future without me, Sarah continued. I wanted Pip to know someone good, someone brave, someone who would teach the lessons I could not teach once I was gone. Owen's throat tightened. Sarah, I'm just a broken-down veteran. I'm not parent material. You are exactly what Pip needs, Sarah said firmly. Not someone perfect. Someone who understands that life is hard, but you keep going anyway. Someone who knows how to protect others even at cost to yourself. What are you asking me? Sarah met his eyes. If I had died, would you have taken care of Pip? Owen did not hesitate. Yes. Why? Because Pip is family. Owen said simply. You both are. Has been since you stayed with me in that collapsed mine. Sarah made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Humans have a strange definition of family. We have known each other only 3 years. Time doesn't matter, Owen said. What matters is who stands beside you when everything is falling apart. By that measure, we've been family from the beginning. Pip stirred and opened one eye. You talking about me? Yes, Sarah said, amusement in her voice. Come here, little eavesdropper. Pip scrambled over and settled between them. The little dragon looked up at Owen, then at Sarah. What you two deciding? That we are family, Sarah said. The 3 of us. No matter what. I already knew that, Pip said matter-of-factly. I've been calling Owen Papa in my head for months now. Just wasn't sure if humans do the family thing same as dragons. Owen felt something break open in his chest, something that had been locked tight since the war. We do, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Humans definitely do the family thing. Pip beamed and snuggled against his side. Good, because I'm not letting either of you go anywhere ever again. We staying together. Together, Sarah agreed, resting her head near them. Together, Owen echoed. Outside the cave, Elder Roth smiled. 3 weeks after Owen nearly died, he was finally strong enough to walk back to his workshop. Pip insisted on coming along, flying in wobbly circles overhead. The little dragon was still learning to fly properly and crashed into a bush at least twice during the short journey. Sarah followed at a distance, recovered enough to fly, but still taking things slow. She landed on a ridge nearby and watched as Owen surveyed the damage to his workshop. The equipment he had been repairing was covered in dust. Everything looked exactly as he had left it that desperate day when Pip came running for help that IT felt like a lifetime ago. You gonna fix that? Pip asked, pointing at the mining equipment. Eventually, Owen said, First I need to fix myself some proper meals. I'm tired of cave food. Cave food is good, Pip protested. Mommy catches the best rock rabbits. Your mother is an excellent hunter, Owen agreed diplomatically. But I miss vegetables. He started cleaning up the workshop, moving slowly to accommodate his still healing body. Pip helped by carrying small tools and claws that were growing stronger every day. They worked in comfortable silence, the kind that only exists between people who know each other well. Sarah eventually joined them, folding her wings and settling in the doorway. She watched Owen work with a thoughtful expression. You could come live with us in the caves, she said. There is plenty of room. Pip would like having you close. I would, Pip confirmed enthusiastically. Then we could play every day, and I could show you my rock collection, and you could teach me more human words. Owen smiled. I appreciate the offer, but I think I need my workshop. This is my space where I can fix things and think. You could have both, Sarah suggested. Keep the workshop but sleep in the caves. It is warmer there. Safer too. Owen considered this. His small quarters attached to the workshop were drafty and lonely. He had spent too many nights there staring at the ceiling, remembering everyone he had lost. The caves, filled with dragon warmth and Pip's chatter, sounded infinitely better. Maybe we compromise, he said. I stay here during the day to work, but evenings I come to the caves. Would that be acceptable? Pip launched into the air and crashed into Owen's chest, hugging him with small claws and wings. Yes, yes, yes. That means you there for bedtime stories." Owen caught the enthusiastic dragon and laughed. The sound surprised him. He had not laughed like that in years, open and genuine. Over the following weeks, a new routine developed. Owen worked in his workshop during the day, repairing equipment and taking on jobs from other colonists. Word had spread about what he did for Sarah, and suddenly everyone wanted the human who walked through radiation to keep a promise. He did not advertise the story, but Pip had no such reservations. The little dragon told everyone who would listen about Owen's bravery. The tale grew more elaborate with each telling. And then Papa walked through fire and fought off radiation monsters and carried the medicine all the way back while bleeding from his eyes. Pip would say dramatically, "I don't think that's exactly how it happened." Owen would correct gently. "Was too." Pip insisted. "You just don't remember because you were being too heroic." The dragon community's attitude toward humans began to change. They saw how Sarah and Pip thrived with Owen as part of their family. They saw how he integrated into their community without trying to change them or make them more human. He learned dragon customs, respected dragon traditions, and treated everyone with quiet dignity. Elder Roth came to visit the workshop one afternoon. He found Owen teaching Pip about basic mechanics using spare parts from broken equipment. "If you turn the gear this way," Owen was explaining, "it connects to this one and creates motion. See?" Pip turned the gear and squeaked with delight as the mechanism moved. "It like magic, but with metal." "Engineering," Owen corrected. "But close enough." Roth cleared his throat. Owen and Pip looked up. "Elder Roth," Owen greeted him. "What can I do for you?" The old dragon settled his bulk carefully, mindful of the small space. "I came to apologize." "For what?" "For doubting you," Roth said. "When you first arrived at the caves, I thought you were wasting our time. I did not believe a human could help where dragon healers had failed. I was wrong. You were protecting your people." Owen said, "I don't hold that against you. Nevertheless, I was wrong about more than just your medical knowledge." Roth continued. "I was wrong about what humans are capable of. Your species is known across the galaxy as warriors, survivors, deathworlders. We hear stories of human stubbornness and human violence. But we do not hear enough about human compassion. We're not that special," Owen said, uncomfortable with the praise. "You are," Roth disagreed. "You risk everything for people who are not even your species. You adopt our children into your hearts. You keep promises even when keeping them might kill you. These are not common traits in the galaxy." Pip climbed onto Owen's shoulder. "Papa is the best human. Everyone knows that." "Perhaps," Roth said with amusement. "But I think Owen represents something important about his species, something the rest of us need to understand better." He stood to leave, then paused. "The Colony Council is meeting next week. We are discussing integration between dragon and human communities, better cooperation, shared resources. I would like you to speak at the meeting if you are willing." "Me?" Owen was surprised. "I'm just a mechanic." "You are the mechanic who saved Sarah's life," Roth corrected. "You are the human who proved that our two species can be family. Your voice matters." After the elder left, Pip looked up at Owen with huge eyes. "You going to talk to the whole council?" "That's very important." "Apparently," Owen said. He felt nervous about public speaking, but if it helped build bridges between humans and dragons, he would do it. The council meeting came quickly. Owen stood before an assembly of dragons and human colonists, all watching him expectantly. His hands shook slightly, but he forced himself to speak clearly. "I'm not good at speeches," he began. "I'm better at fixing things than talking. But I know what it means to be part of a community that takes care of each other." He told them about the war, about losing his entire squad because they refused to leave civilians behind. He told them about the years of isolation afterward, believing he did not deserve happiness when so many good people had died. Then Sarah got trapped in that mine, he continued. And I had a choice. I could walk away like everyone else said to do, or I could try. I try because that's what humans do. We try, even when it seems hopeless. He looked at Sarah and Pip sitting in the front. But Sarah tried too. She stayed with me when she could have left. She taught Pip to see past species and just see people. That's not a human trait or a dragon trait. That's what good people do, regardless of what they look like. He addressed the whole assembly. We can build something here. A community where humans and dragons don't just tolerate each other, but actually family to each other. It won't be easy. We're different in a lot of ways. But difference doesn't have to mean division. The room was quiet when he finished. Then Sarah stood and bowed her head in a gesture of deep respect. Other dragons followed. The human colonists stood and applauded. From that day forward, things began to change on Redstone Valley. Humans and dragons started working together on projects. Dragon Young attended human schools to learn reading and math. Human children visited dragon caves to learn about flight and fire control. IT was not perfect. There were misunderstandings and occasional conflicts. But there was also genuine effort on both sides to build something better. 6 months after Owen nearly died, Pip finally mastered sustained flight. The little dragon soared through the sky, calling down to Owen and Sarah, who watched from below. Look, I'm doing it. I'm really flying. Owen shaded his eyes against the sun, grinning. I see you. That's amazing, Pip. Sarah leaned against Owen's shoulder, her wing draped over him like a warm blanket. They had developed these casual touches over the months, small gestures of affection that meant everything. Thank you, Sarah said quietly. For what? For giving Pip a future, she said. For giving me a future. For showing both of us that family doesn't have to look like what we expected. Owen watched Pip perform a loop in the air, the little dragon's joy visible in every movement. I think you gave me more than I gave you. I was just existing before, going through motions. You two made me want to actually live again. Then we are even, Sarah said. More than even, Owen corrected. We're family. That's worth more than any debt. Pip finally landed, crashing more than settling, but beaming with pride. Did you see? Did you see how high I went? We saw, Sarah assured her child. You were magnificent. Papa, will you teach me more human words tonight? I want to learn all of them. All of them might take a while, Owen laughed. But we can start with a few more. They walked back toward the caves together as the sun began to set. Pip chattered about everything the little dragon wanted to learn. Sarah hummed a traditional dragon song. Owen listened to both with a contentment he had never thought he would feel again. Other colonists watched them pass. The human veteran, the dragon mother, and the hatchling who brought them together. They had become a symbol of what was possible when people chose compassion over fear, family over isolation. In the cave that night, after Pip fell asleep curled between them, Sarah spoke softly. Do you ever regret it? The radiation poisoning, the pain, all of it. Owen thought about the question seriously. His body still bore scars from that journey. He would probably always have some lingering effects from the radiation exposure and the brutal healing process. No, he said finally. I don't regret it. Before I met you both, I was alive, but I wasn't living. I had survived the war, but I hadn't found a reason to keep going beyond just existing. You gave me that reason. We are just one dragon and one hatchling, Sarah said. Is that enough reason? You are everything, Owen said simply. You are my family. That's all the reason anyone needs. Sarah rested her head near his, her breathing steady and peaceful. Outside, the stars shone over Redstone Valley, watching over a community learning that the strength of humanity was not in their weapons or their technology. It was in their capacity to love across any boundary, to build family from friendship, and to sacrifice everything for those they chose to protect. And in a warm cave filled with dragon fire and human hope, 3 beings of different species slept peacefully, bound together by something stronger than blood. They were family, and that was everything.